G'day and welcome to a wide world of webinars, Goway style. My name is Don, Goway's in-house destination expert, and today's topic is France. Ooh la la. What can be said about France that has not been said before? Well, many things have been said, some true, some not so much, and some that are completely false. As an example, French people wear berets and striped shirts. False. French people are rude. At times. French people eat a lot of baguettes. Now that's true. The French smoke like chimneys. Not true. French people drink a lot of wine. That's a given. The French eat a lot of cheese. Another given. The French are cowards. Completely false. This is a particular line that many Brits will take. Not so much because they believe it, but simply because Britain and France have a love-hate relationship that goes back centuries. More on that later. The French are lazy. False. French people are amazing lovers. True. Well, I've been told it's true. All the French I've spoken to say it's true. France is one of the oldest nations on Earth and the most ethnically diverse country in Europe. These deep and broad influences have made France a world leader throughout history in nearly all aspects of culture, including cuisine, winemaking, politics, philosophy, music, art, film, fashion, literature, and sport. As such, France in many ways is not just a country, but a way of life. It remains a prominent global centre of all things cultural. It possesses world-class art galleries and outstanding museums, architecturally from ancient Roman sites to Renaissance chateaus. Its cuisine is legendary, as are its wines and liqueurs. The sights, sounds and ambience are all there to devour on a France getaway. Historically, France was Gaul, and Gaul was a region of Western Europe first clearly described by the Romans, encompassing present-day France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg and parts of Switzerland, Germany and northern Italy. The region was first conquered by Julius Caesar and Rome, then the Franks in the 5th century AD until the Vikings took a bite out of the region in the 9th century that to this day is called
Despite his best efforts, King Charles the Simple could not check the growing Norse power. And after the devastating siege of Chartres in 911, he was forced to cede a swathe of northern territory to Rollo, the leader of the Norse raiding parties, giving him rights for his people to intermarry with the Frankish locals and make the land their home. This paved the way for the Duchy of Normandy, and with Duke Rollo as its founder, established a dynasty that would leave a lasting legacy on Western Europe.
In 1066, William the Conqueror set out from Normandy to invade Britain, which he did, and in turn for the next 400 years, French became the language of the ruling class of England, and many French words were introduced into the English language. Britain and France and the associated territorial claims of each continued with a very complicated back and forth until 1914 and World War I, when Britain and France fought side by side against a united Germany. This friendship and partnership between Britain and France has remained stable to this day. Historic France had them all, and modern-day France simply has it all. Looking for modern-day experiences like skiing, sailing, beaches, trekking, biking, France has it. Self-drive, coach tours, France has it. Sporting events, Rugby World Cup, Olympics, If you're watching this post-2023 or post-24, France had it. Cultural and cuisine immersion, France has it. Mountains, rolling hills, France has it. Luxury, la France la. Simply put, France has it all. Now let's look at how all that translates into a trip for the modern day Globetrotter.
Entre nous, on se souffle un petit bisou. Entre nous, just for me and you.
Where is France? France is across the pond, as they say, from North America. That is, somewhat directly east, northeasterly-ish, actually, of the US and Canada. The following information is good for quiz nights. Located on the western edge of Europe, bordered by the Bay of Biscay, North Atlantic Ocean, in the west, by the English Channel in the northwest, France borders Belgium and Luxembourg in the northeast, Germany, Switzerland and Italy in the east, the Mediterranean Sea, Monaco, Spain and Andorra in the south. In addition, France shares maritime borders with the United Kingdom. France is separated from its frenemy of England by the English Channel, or the Channel, which at its narrowest at the Strait of Dover, the central ferry port on the UK side, it's only 34 kilometres or 18 miles wide. The Channel is the busiest shipping area in the world. An England and France combination is very popular and highly recommended. So as such, the following information is not only interesting, but useful when planning the itinerary. Getting to France. Following on from the last point of how narrow the Channel is and in turn how close borders are between England and France, let's first look at getting to France if the Globetrotter is already in England. Getting from London, England to Paris, France is easy with a variety of options. A ferry from the English coast at Dover, the normal departure point, to Calais, the usual arrival point. This means a train from to London and Dover, board the ferry to Calais, and then a train to from Paris. From London, you would use the London St Pancras station. It takes approximately 1 hour, 10 minutes to get from London to Dover, and with up to 42 trains a day, it's easy. From Calais to Paris, the train is about 3 hours. We recommend having your Goway destination expert pre-book all these services for ease and convenience. For even more ease and convenience, we would suggest the Channel train or the Eurostar. Travelling by train from London to Paris is quick, easy and enjoyable, and you go under the English Channel. Simply hop on one of the trains which again leave from London St Pancras and journey from one world famous capital city to another in just over 2 hours. Whether you're heading to Paris by train to experience the culture, the cuisine, the history, or a little bit of everything, you can start the journey in comfort with the Eurostar trains from London. With a departure almost every hour, there's a travel class to suit every budget and style. With power sockets at every seat and free Wi-Fi for all, your clients can stay in the loop all the way. Your London train to Paris on the Eurostar will arrive right at the heart of the French capital at Gare du Nord station, and since all the passport checks are done before you leave the UK, you can step straight off the train and into French action. Not far from the platform, you'll find the Metro and the RER trains to whisk you to Paris's top museums and galleries, but our expert recommendation is to have a private transfer waiting for you at the train station to get your clients to the hotel. Then you can begin the explorations of the City of Lights, Paris. As an aside, the Eurostar also connects from London to Brussels, London to Amsterdam, and London to Lille. Again, we recommend having your Goway destination expert pre-book all these services for ease and convenience. Now you can also drive London to Paris if you are looking at a self-drive getaway. Highly recommended. With the Eurotunnel Les Châtels, just load up your car with either the kids, golf clubs and/or skis. In fact, pack in as much luggage as you want, as there is no excess luggage charges. Get to Folkestone on the English coast, easily accessible from London, or if in France you get to Calais if heading the other way. You then check in and go through border security, board the Channel Tunnel transport, and then the journey across the channel should take about 35 minutes, well actually under the channel. Once you arrive in Calais, you'll leave the shuttle, go through border security, and then drive on into Paris or anywhere else in France for that matter. Throughout the journey, you stay in your vehicle, which is only about 35 minutes. That's from Vauxhall to Calais. You can drive and take a ferry as well. This means you go above the channel. Similar logistics, but it takes much longer. A note about driving. If renting a car in England and wanting to go to France, or the same thing in reverse, there will be a limitation of car options due to rules and regulations. Also remember that in England, they drive on the left-hand side of the road, and in France, and the rest of the continent for that matter, on the right-hand side of the road. So this will mean adapting, but also driving a car with the steering wheel being on the wrong side of the road, whether you're in England or whether you're on the continent. So while we highly recommend a self-drive, we'd suggest using England to France as an example, returning your rental car in England, the Eurostar to Paris, then picking up a French-based rental car in Paris, and away you go. And the same concept in reverse. Now, not into driving yourself, then there are coach options, many of which will take the ferry over the channel, which makes the connection a long one of up to 9 hours to cover just 400 odd kilometers, 300 odd miles between London and Paris. But this is a cheaper option. Also, flying. Airfares in Europe can be crazy cheap. So then of course you can fly from a choice of English airports, Heathrow, Gatwick, London Airport, and or Stansted, just to name a few, into Charles de Gaulle, or equally wide choice of other airports in France, such as Paris Orly Airport, ORY, Nice, NCE, Lyon, LYS, or Marseille, MRS.
Take me away to Marseille. Yeah, get on.
Some of the airlines that fly the channel are EasyJet, CityJet, Vueling, British Airways, and Air France. But there are many, many options. Ask one of our destination experts about those flight options. I mentioned these fares can be cheap. Well, they can be, but they are basic. So keep an eye out for all the added extras that will get tagged on. So that's why it's best to work with a Goway destination expert about all the flight options from London to Paris, or vice versa, or anywhere into Paris from anywhere in Europe. Now, speaking of airports, let's look at getting to France from North America. As a gateway to Europe and beyond, the Middle East, Africa, it is easy and very affordable to get to France, be it direct or via other European cities. The main international gateway in and out is Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport, CDG. The airport is the largest airport in France and one of the busiest airports in Europe. It's located about 23 kilometers, 15 miles northeast of Paris, and takes about 1 hour to get to and from the airport. Now, this is subject to local traffic conditions, of course. Charles de Gaulle Airport serves as a hub for the major airlines, of course, such as Air France. A side note that may make our US viewers unhappy, France and the rest of the continent works in metric. Since France shares land borders with several European countries, there are several main gateways by land, including Nice, Marseille, Côte d'Azur, with the closest EU cities being Spain to the west, Barcelona, and San Remo and Genoa, Italy, to the east of France. Lyon, close to the international city of Geneva, Switzerland. Lille, located in northern France, is across the border from Belgium's famous cities of Bruges, Ghent, and Brussels. Bordeaux, located in southwest France, is accessible to northern Spain's Basque Country and famous cities like San Sebastian and Bilbao. Now, where was I? Oh yes, Charles de Gaulle Airport. Getting to and from the airport is very easy, but as always, we highly recommend a pre-arranged private transfer to get you to your hotel quickly. Goway recommends private guided services. Now, while English is used in France, this is France where French is the preferred language. Now, albeit many years ago, when I was traveling there as a youngling with my girlfriend at the time, she spoke some French, I spoke none. When I attempted to ask questions in English, I received no help, none. But as soon as my girlfriend used her limited French, the difference in willingness to help was noticeable. So for peace of mind on arrival, we stand by our recommendation of a private guided transfer to avoid this potential scenario. If you're arriving directly into Paris from North America, the last thing you want to be is negotiating a transfer or taxi in broken French or with no French. Our expert advice is having someone waiting for you on arrival who can advise you on money changing and or getting a SIM card for your phone and to handle all the baggage, and then you enjoy an easy and stress-free transfer to your hotel. On departure, if the adventurous side takes hold, then definitely return to Paris by train, underground or taxi. Same recommendation if coming via train, the Eurostar. We highly recommend a pre-arranged private transfer to meet you at the train station and get you and your baggage to your hotel.
Goway recommends private guided services.
Now, the preferred airlines to get you into Paris from North America would be Air France. Being of the Sky Team Alliance family, Globetrotters can benefit with code sharing with top worldwide airlines such as Delta, Aeromexico, KLM, Virgin Atlantic, and many more. For our Canadian listeners, Air France has direct flights to Paris from Ottawa 5 times a week, and the non-stop route between Quebec City and Paris will be back with the first flight of the season as of May 2nd, 2023. Air France will now offer up to 50 weekly flights to France from 5 Canadian cities: Ottawa, Quebec City, Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver. You also, of course, have Air Canada. You also have Air Canada to get Canadian clients to France. There is always British Airways via London, Ryanair and EasyJet. As mentioned, Paris is a major gateway to other destinations in Europe, the Middle East, Africa and Asia, so Paris could be viewed as a stopover en route to somewhere else. Almost all fly direct with a flight time of plus or minus 7 to 8 hours from the East Coast and will often depart early to late evening so you get that overnight experience. Iceland Air, of course, flies via Iceland and allows a free stopover. We recommend this as often the flights are cheaper than the other carriers to Europe and you get ice and fire and horses and Vikings. It's cool, metaphorically and literally. Check out our Iceland module for more information or speak to one of our destination experts. The other main gateways into France, more often used for regional, European that is, international arrivals, but some North American arrivals and departures are Paris-Orly, ORY. Orly is the second largest airport in Paris and the second busiest airport in France. It is located about 14 kilometers or 8 miles south of Paris. Nice Airport, NCE. Nice is the third busiest airport in France and serves the French Riviera region. It is located about 7 kilometers, 4 miles southwest of Nice. And Lyon, LYS. Lyon is the fourth largest airport in France and serves the Rhône-Alpes region. It is located about 20 kilometers, 14 miles southeast of Lyon. Visas. Simply put, for Canadian and US passport holders, no visas are required.
Excellent!
And furthermore, none are required for the greater EU, despite Brexit.
To that I say, all right, all right, all right.
But permanent residents of the US or Canada traveling on other passports other than a US or Canadian will require a visa. Please ensure you check with one of our destination experts for all the information. Welcome to the Goway TSA, a quick update of breaking news in the globetrotting world of Goway. Today, new procedures will be coming into effect in November 2023, date subject to change, for US and Canadian passport holders when visiting a Schengen country. Schengen is an organisation between a group of countries in Europe, some who are part of the EU, others who are not, that allows globetrotters to travel freely between the member countries without going through border controls. The name comes from a small village in Luxembourg, on the border with Germany and France, where the Schengen Agreement and the Schengen Convention were signed in 1985 and in 1990, respectively. The new mandatory program for any globetrotter wishing to visit a Schengen member country is called ETIAS, European Travel Information and Authorization System. In short, it is a security check. Obtaining an ETIAS will be applicable to any US and Canadian passport holder when looking to visit a Schengen partner country or countries. If the Globetrotter is only visiting a non-Schengen country like England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales or Northern Ireland, then the ETIAS procedure is not required. However, if a Globetrotter visits a non-Schengen and Schengen country or countries on the same trip, the ETIAS procedure must be completed. If looking to visit a Schengen partner country or countries only, then the ETIAS is required. The following countries are part of the European Union but have not signed an agreement to be in the Schengen area. This means these countries can be visited without the need of an ETIAS: Bulgaria, Romania, and Ireland. The following countries are part of the Schengen agreement, but they are not in the European Union. This means you must obtain an ETIAS to visit Switzerland, Norway, Liechtenstein, Iceland. The United Kingdom, England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland is not part of the Schengen agreement nor the European Union. ETIAS authorization does not override or replace any visa requirements for countries outside the Schengen zone. The ETIAS authorization is not a visa, so as such, always confirm, based on your passport, if a visa is required to visit the countries you wish to visit. The ETIAS procedure is a completely electronic system that allows and keeps track of visitors from countries who do not need a visa to enter the Schengen zone. Here is a list of the European countries that will require a valid ETIAS upon arrival at their respective borders. To use the ETIAS authorization correctly, you must first pass through the first Schengen country stated in the application. If you are planning to go through Germany, Belgium and Austria, and you stated this in the application that your first country to visit would be Germany, the Globetrotter must enter Germany first before visiting Belgium and Austria. After you enter your first country, you can freely visit any other country in the Schengen zone for up to 90 days. As always, it is at the discretion of the border authorities to allow or deny entry to their borders, irrespective of visa, ETIAS, or any other issued travel authority. The ETIAS is an online application and should take no more than 10 minutes to complete. The application must be completed before travel. Depending on your country of citizenship, the application portal will present the Globetrotter with several fields to complete. The following information will be required: first name last name at birth if different from current name, date of birth, place of birth, information regarding your citizenship, address, email and phone number, education and work experience, first EU country you intend to visit. Background and eligibility questions will inquire about your medical condition, any travel to war countries or places where you were deported or rejected, as well as criminal records if applicable. For family members of EU citizens from other countries, you must submit proof of relationships, residence card, and other background information. The only document required to apply for the ETIAS is a valid passport. Upon submitting an ETIAS application, some travellers may be asked to submit additional documents. The ETIAS will not burden finances. As of recording, the cost is estimated to be €7 per application. This is only valid for adults over 18 years old, as those under 18 will not pay any fees. The fees can be paid with debit or credit card. Immediately after payment, the ETIAS authorization will start processing and takes approximately 10 minutes. Upon approval, you will receive your confirmation via email. You do not need to print out your confirmation unless you want the extra security. Example, in case your phone or tablet crashes. Air, sea and land carriers will check for the ETIAS prior to boarding. If you have not obtained the ETIAS, they have the right to refuse boarding. If approved, the ETIAS will be valid for 3 years or until the end of the validity of the travel document registered during the application, whichever comes first. As mentioned, US and Canadian passport holders will be required to obtain the ETIAS. There are also an additional 62 other countries who also require ETIAS authorization. At the time of recording, there is no information on when an ETIAS needs to be applied for in respect to the Globetrotter's travel date, nor is the application link available at this time. As soon as this information becomes available, we will notify our valued partners in travel. For full information on the ETIAS, please use the link that has been posted below this video. getting around France. Before diving into this section, let's look at the size of France. The total area of France is 547,028 square kilometers, or 211,209 square miles, making France slightly smaller than two Colorados. France is smaller than the state of Texas. As an example, France top to bottom by road, that's Calais to Nice, is about 12 hours drive time. That's what Google Maps tells me. It takes that long to go from Sydney to Brisbane, Toronto to New Brunswick, or Amarillo to Corpus Christi in Texas. And that's reflective of crossing maybe 2 states, 2 provinces, or in the US's case in Texas, 1 state. I once drove across 3 countries in a day in Europe. That's how small the geographic area of Europe is compared to Canada and the US. So for us Americans and Canadians and Australians who live in Canada and know how big our respective countries are, distances between points in France and Europe in general are smaller to what we are used to here. We have mentioned getting to France from England and the use of a car, and by extension getting around France by car is recommended, and it's easy. Roads are great, signage is everywhere, and despite my story from yore, the locals are helpful should you get lost. In fact, fitting in lots of countries, if you're looking at a self-drive in Europe, is also easy. Rail is another option between main cities. Not so much for the more back-country locations, that would be your self-drive, but the rail system and rail passes around France, again, easy. This is Europe. Buses and/or coach tours are of course an option, as is flying between regional cities. Our recommendation, apart from self-drives, is private or semi-private transfers between points, then hooking into private touring. Brexit and money. Brexit? What is it?
Wrote a song about it? Like to hear it? Here it goes.
Tell us, Don.
Brexit is an abbreviation of 2 words, Britain and exit, and refers to the withdrawal process of the United Kingdom from the European Union, the EU. Now, what does this mean for a Globetrotter, as it has many other meanings for UK residents? Well, not much other than the currency used in England, Scotland and Wales, and this is the English pound or pound sterling. So in relation to France and the rest of the continent, it means once you enter a EU country, you can freely travel around other EU countries. In respect to money, euro is the currency to be used in France. Paris is consistently ranked as one of the most expensive cities in the world, usually second to Singapore. Although Paris is a particularly popular expat destination, there are also other equally enticing areas of France with plenty to offer, all with a significantly lower cost of living. In other words, look outside of Paris for your French getaway. What to see and do. Before we get into what to see and what to do, it is worth looking at how France is generally divided up regionally. Of course, Gay Paris will be the focal point, particularly for a first-time Globetrotters visit. Even if someone is returning, Paris will still play a part in itinerary design. You have the Normandy region, Caen, Bayeux, Honfleur. Provence region, Avignon, which is all popular for the D-Day landing sites. Marseille and the French Riviera. The Loire Valley, Bordeaux and its surroundings. Alsace and the Toulouse region, and of course Brittany. We will look at regions of France that usually hold sway to the Globetrotter. Naturally, every corner of France will have something to offer, but we will look at the big hits that most Globetrotters will want to see. So, without further ado, Paris. Paris, the city of lights, the fashion capital, the city of love. All these nicknames are far from enough to reveal all that Paris is. Paris is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. It is known worldwide for the Louvre Museum, Notre Dame Cathedral, and the Eiffel Tower. It has a reputation of being a romantic and cultural city. The city is also known for its high-quality gastronomy and the terraces and cafes. The beautiful and romantic city, in many respects, resembles an outdoor museum with its attractive and elegant architecture and wide boulevards. In fact, a large section at the center of the city has been declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Paris is made up of 20 districts called arrondissements, each one giving a different perspective to the city. The meandering River Seine dissects the city and adds enormously to the character and beauty of travel to Paris. It is hard to take in all of Paris in one visit, and this is why it chews up so much of an itinerary. So the call is how long in Paris versus the rest of France? Easy answer is go back again, and again, and again. Paris's principal boulevard is the elegant Champs-Élysées, which cuts through the center of the city with the iconic Arc de Triomphe located at one end and the Place des Concorde at the other. Paris boasts several beautiful parks such as the Bois de Boulogne and the Bois de Vincennes, the two most extensive ones. In the center of the city are three smaller but charming parks. The Tourelles, which borders onto the Louvre, the Jardin de Luxembourg on the left bank, and the delightful, if small, Place des Vosges, surrounded by lovely houses and cafes, all to be enjoyed on your Paris trip. There are of course many must-sees, attractions and iconic sites in Paris. For culture buffs, the Louvre Museum would be an excellent starting point. It is one of the largest and most important museums in the world and is housed in the expensive Louvre Palace, situated in the First District with over 1 million works of art including the Mona Lisa and Venus de Milo. The Musée d'Orsay used to be a century-old railway station, the Gare d'Orsay, and was converted into an art gallery in 1986. When it opened, the museum contained some 2,300 paintings, 1,500 sculptures, and 1,000 other objects. Most of these works of art came from other museums, but over time their collection has expanded and covers a period from the mid-19th century. It contains works by many important Impressionist painters such as Degas, Rodin, Monet, Manet, Renoir, Cézanne, Van Gogh, and many others. Two other museums of note are the Rodin Museum, dedicated to the sculptor Augustus Rodin, and the Pompidou Center, devoted to contemporary art and design. Towering over the city is the Eiffel Tower, which can be seen from almost anywhere in Paris and is always a good reference point if you get lost. The tower rises to a height of 300 meters, 984 feet, and was completed at the end of the 19th century. Another major landmark visible from most of Paris is the round-domed Sacré-Cœur Basilica, located on a hill in the atmospheric Montmartre district, also well worth a visit on a French vacation, with its many street artists and cafes. Then of course there is the Gothic-style Notre Dame Cathedral, located on the River Seine and dating back hundreds of years. It's currently being rebuilt after a devastating fire in 2019, with almost $1 billion, yes, $1 billion being raised to rebuild it. The list of attractions goes on and on, but it's too numerous to mention here, well, without everyone aging a few years. However, time should be allotted to visit at least one of the two major and elegant historical palaces situated just outside of the city on any visit to Paris. Versailles and Fontainebleau, past homes of French royalty. Getting around Paris. In Paris, the neighborhoods are named according to their number, which corresponds to an administrative district. For example, you might live in the 5th district, which would be written as. Looking at the Paris map, you can see that the districts spiral out from the center in numerical order. Each of the Paris neighborhoods and districts has its own special character. As mentioned, Paris will be a focal point of any trip, and almost all itineraries will start and end in Paris. So here is one of our best sellers. 5-day Paris signature. First class, private guided. Fall in love with Paris, the city of light. Take a private city tour, visit the Eiffel Tower and cruise along the Seine River. Then explore the opulent Palace of Versailles. On your last day, get off the beaten path on a private tour of Paris' 17th district before being swept away at the famous Moulin Rouge, the celebrated French cabaret. This is the quintessential Parisian package. In regards to the Louvre and other big sites in and around Paris, most time of the year, but more so in high season, lines to get into these big sites will be as big as the sites, in other words, long. So, our expert recommendation is Goway's getting ahead of the line option. By booking with Goway, we are able to offer a skip the line or priority access option to sites like the Louvre Museum, Eiffel Tower and or Versailles.
Versailles wasn't built in a day. It all began in 1629, when King Louis XIII had a hunting lodge built, replaced sometime later by a stone and brick chateau. King Louis XIV inherited this small chateau. In 1666, the sovereign embarked on major building work. Over 50 years, he continued to extend and transform what became Europe's largest chateau, the Palace of Versailles. Architect Louis de Vaux designed two symmetrical grand apartments for the king and the queen. Louis XIV moved his government and court to Versailles. After a new program of works, Jules Hardouin Mansart replaced the terrace overlooking the grounds by the Hall of Mirrors, which became the court's main ceremonial reception room. Mansart further extended the palace to accommodate the royal family, the court, and all the government departments. With the servants, the kitchen, and stable staff, close to 10,000 people were bustling about the palace. At the end of his reign, Louis XIV moved his bedchamber to the center of the palace. This room was the hub of the king's daily ceremonial routine and that of all the Versailles courtiers. Towering over the other buildings, a royal chapel was finally built by Mansart on the same scale as the palace. When King Louis XV moved to Versailles, he broke with strict court etiquette and fitted out smaller apartments for more comfort and privacy. At the end of his reign, Louis XV built what the palace was missing, a real opera house. Architect Gabriel modernized the facades closest to the town. In 1789, the French Revolution forced the royal family to leave Versailles for Paris. The future of the palace looked uncertain.
You need to book this in advance, and by doing so, Goway can guarantee priority access with a registered tour guide if selected. Highly recommended. It's important to note, however, that skip the line and or priority access, Globetrotters will still have to queue in a line. However, it will go much faster than the regular ticket holders that are purchasing on the day of arrival. Book ahead to save time and money and avoid missing out on the top sites and much less stress and grief. Ways to see all the sites and areas previously mentioned in and around Paris are shared tours. With shared tours, transportation is usually in a larger coach with a tour guide or audio headset. These tours are economical and offer a wonderful overview of the city. It's great for anyone of any age. Hop-on, hop-off buses are in this category, and this gives the Globetrotter the independence to visit the sites they want to see within a 24, 48 or 72-hour period. A great way to discover and get around the city independently. Small group. With small group experience, these are more intimate ways to discover a city or a town. Usually, walking tours or transport by minivan with a guide and/or driver. The guide provides more in-depth knowledge about the region and/or the town, and the tours may sometimes offer more inclusions like food or wine tastings, entrance tickets, Examples are market and cooking classes, bike tours, sites outside the main city centres like Versailles, Medoc and Saint-Emilion wine regions. Our recommended way is private guided touring. With private guided experiences, these services can be curated to the Globetrotter's exact wants and interests and will include a private driver and guide, hotel pickup and drop-off, and endless options to be tailor-made to make the program perfect for your clients. Another great way to see a city, and I do this in almost every big city I visit, is a bike tour. Any of these tours will include a professional and knowledgeable tour guide and all equipment including bike, regular or e-bike if available, helmet, and for most programs, snacks. Often these days too, you have segways as an option. These touring styles extend to all options in and around France. Here are some expert tips, however, for Paris. Book the Eiffel Tower early and in advance. Due to its popularity, the Eiffel Tower changes its rules of entry from time to time, primarily to control crowds by limiting the number of tickets for sale. The tickets are also in time slots, so for larger groups, if you are booking a group, you may have to book separate times due to the availability and release of tickets. Reservations at Jules Verne restaurant at the Eiffel Tower. It is recommended to make bookings through their online website since they require the same credit card information for any additional items booked for the meal. Take advantage of the high-speed trains to access the entire country of France. Popular routes include Paris to Bordeaux in 2.5 hours, Paris to Lyon in 2 hours, or Paris to Nice in 5 hours. Visitors can explore top wine and gastronomic regions, sunny beaches, and sunshine year-round. Again, at each stop, we recommend a private guide and driver waiting for you and private touring. Self-drives, one of our top recommendations. With many scenic routes and charming towns and villages to discover, there are several self-drive programs in France that cater to different interests and preferences. Here are some of the best-selling self-drive programs for France. So on that note, let's look outside of Paris. The Loire Valley. The Loire Valley is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and is known for its stunning chateaus, beautiful countryside, and delicious wines. The main activities are touring airy old chateaus and magnificent modern gardens, tasting wine in the middle of vineyards, and, this being France, eating some very, very good food. Our self-drive is our recommended way to explore this region. Normandy. Once the centre of a powerful medieval empire that controlled a significant area of continental Europe and most of England and Wales, Normandy has an incredibly rich heritage to draw from. Many visitors come to be enchanted by historical attractions such as the triple peaks of Rouen Cathedral, the Bayeux Tapestry, engrossing tale of vengeance and conquest, and the fantastical abbey atop Mont Saint-Michel. Normandy is also, of course, famed for the D-Day Allied invasion on June 6, 1944, and the brutal inland fighting that ensued, but which eventually resulted in the liberation of France from Nazi rule. However, Normandy is more than just a history museum. This is a region of natural beauty too, from the chalky cliffs of the Alabaster Coast to the rocky hills of Swiss Normandy and the Continent marshlands. And where better to savour the twin pillars of Norman cuisine, milk and apples. Naturally, visit the D-Day landing beaches of Utah, Omaha, Gold and Juno beaches. Explore the charming port town of Honfleur and sample local specialties such as Camembert cheese and cider. Now, off the back of this, France has sadly been ground zero for many battles in the past. So for those looking for battlefield tours, there are, again sadly, many to choose from. If you are from the US, then as mentioned, Normandy and the D-Day beaches. Also, retracing the Band of Brothers battles is an option where you can visit the Argonne Forest battlefield.
Look at here. You can actually see the foxholes that these guys dug out. Here's another one over here. Oh my gosh, how cool is this?
Canadians will often be drawn to not only Normandy, but also to Vimy Ridge. As an Australian, there are nearby sites of Boisiers and Hamel. In short, battlefield tour options abound in France. Private guided is most definitely the way to go for this option. Getting to the battlefields, self-driving is the way to go. Literally. Provence is a region in southeastern France known for its lavender fields, olive groves, and picturesque hilltop villages. Drive among beautiful roads snaking between olive groves, vineyards, and rows of vibrant purple lavender and golden yellow sunflower fields. Wander the streets of hilltop villages built into cliff faces with stone cottages and painted shutters. Jump into the refreshing water of canyon rivers, waterfalls, and the turquoise sea. Sip on ice-cold provincial wine and enjoy the culinary delights of France. Everything you could want and more is here. Provence is home to many attractions including the city of Avignon, the ancient Roman aqueduct of Pont du Gard, and charming villages of Gourdon and Roussillon. A self-drive is our recommended way to explore this region. The French Riviera. The French Riviera is a stretch of coastline in southeastern France known for its glamorous resorts, beautiful beaches, and stunning views. From the sea and be-seen beaches and boardwalks of Cannes and Monaco to the lavender fields of Grasse and medieval villages of Aix, there's a whole host of places to explore throughout the summer and beyond. Time in the French Riviera allows you to explore destinations such as Nice, Cannes, and Saint-Tropez, as well as lesser-known towns such as Antibes and Villefranche-sur-Mer. This area is downtime and beach time with options to sail in the Mediterranean as well. A self-drive around the region is our recommended way of exploring. Burgundy. Burgundy is a region in eastern France known for its vineyards, historic sites, and charming towns. There are many sides to Burgundy, with the winding rivers and canals, dense forests, lakes and hillsides dotted with pretty towns. Behind this wealth and variety of landscapes, Burgundy also has a unique way of life to offer you, with great wines, good food, and ancient heritage sites. A journey in Burgundy allows you to explore the region's many attractions, including the city of Dijon, the historic town of Bayonne, and the famous wine route of Côte d'Or. A self-drive, again, is our recommended way of exploring Burgundy. As you can see, self-drive options are littered all over the place, as we see this as the best way to explore France outside of Paris. All can be pre-booked for the Globetrotter, including accommodation at any level. This particular self-drive program is highly recommended because most of these cities may not be accessible by flights and or trains, and it's an ideal way to explore some of the lesser visited areas in France. 10-day Southern France self-drive. Moderate self-drive. Get off the beaten track with a 10-day self-drive program through southern France. See the world-renowned wine city of Bordeaux. Continue to the famous pilgrimage town of Lourdes. Then in Cassaron, discover a stunning medieval walled city before ending your program in Montpellier, the medieval city known for its lively atmosphere and proximity to the Mediterranean Sea. France has so much to offer, it's impossible to see everything in one trip. Our recommendation is be prepared to go back again and again and again. Look at France in 3 parts. Part 1, Paris. Part 2, the countryside. Part 3, special interests such as wine, food, battlefields, or beaches. Nothing beats a good trilogy, or if we're in the French vibe, nothing beats a good ménage à trois.
Grin, grin, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more.
Until next time. This is your captain speaking. We know you have a choice when attending webinars. We hope that you found today's webinar fun and informative. We look forward to welcoming you back to our next webinar. Thank you all very much for signing in today. We appreciate the time that you take to listen in. Keep an eye out for more of Goway's wide world of webinars, or Goway WWW. And as always, hit the like button, share the video, and of course subscribe and hit the alerts button to stay up to date on all the latest, updates. Goway can be found at all these favourite social media channels. Until next time,